This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Live tonight for the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. We say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to LSR TV's continuing coverage of the 2020 Real Sim Racing Icebreaker Winter Series, supporting the Nevada Partnership for Homeless Youth. Happy that you're with us for another Monday night on your home for sim racing and the iRacing Esports Network. Evan Pasoko, Justin Prince with you from a very hot Atlanta tonight, Justin, as we roll into the second week of 10.
Yes, indeed, a blistering track temp of 131 degrees Fahrenheit. Partly sunny skies, but very bright sunny skies above this racetrack, meaning throttle control and tire management gonna absolutely be key. Drivers have been trying to prepare and adapt to this very loose condition tonight. It should make it an interesting one though, and it's gonna absolutely test even the best of drivers this evening as they try and fight for the second victory of the season.
And of course, that means coming off for the season opener at Daytona, that the finishing results from that opener is the current point standings coming into this one. 10 weeks, all weeks count at the championship, and if you're on top of the end, that's how you become the Icebreaker Winter Series champion. So it was Nick Holslander who went to victory lane at the Daytona High Bank, so he'll come in on top. Malik Ray right there behind him in second, with Andrew Friedage and Thomas George, two big names right alongside in third and fourth position. But plate racing, always its own unique challenge, Justin. I know we say it in Full Throttle, and we'll say it for this Winter Series as well. I think that real title hunt begins in week 2. So as we come to Atlanta, these drivers have really been struggling to get a handle on these race cars, but not everybody having the same issues. Some drivers are really loose, other drivers really tight, and they'll have 125 laps tonight to figure it out.
Yeah, it's going to come down to driver preference and how they can handle this racetrack. When the track conditions are this hot, 9 times out of 10, that means one thing: drivers getting loose, especially off the corner of turn number 4. With the drivers who can get tight, we might see them hit the wall off of turn 2. It's going to be very challenging to try and handle these conditions tonight for both of those types of drivers and try and keep their cars clean, because you mentioned it's the start of the season, technically of season number 2. With Daytona, there's the chance of unpredictability, and the draft can help you keep in the race. Tonight, if you make a mistake and damage your car, there's a chance you might not be able to charge back up.
And of course, some new faces on track this evening that we did not see with us in that Daytona opener. It will be interesting to see how they could blend themselves into traffic as well. But our 5-minute single car qualifying session has drawn to a close, and we're going to get set to go trackside. Let's go down and take a look at tonight's LSR TV starting grid, and it is none other than Andrew Friedage on pole position, your Full Throttle Cup 2-time champ and defending Icebreaker champion back from 17-18 with a 31-401 is on the pole this evening, and Daniel Everhart's on the outside in second. Sam Niato will start from third spot. He's got Jared Bogard with the Monroe 2P4, and Scott McClendon rounds out your top 5.
Brett McBride will start in the 6th position tonight in his number 5 machine. Behind him, though, David Washington, who had the most laps at Daytona. He'll start alongside your race winner for that event, and Nick Holslander. Rounding out the starting top 10 positions, Kyle Kamer and Thomas George with a time of a 31.603.
Then you'll find the vet Bobby Terrell in the number 11 position. He's got Galen Gidbid with him in 12th. Ross Cato gets that lucky number 13 spot. Bobby Krug is in 14th position, and Brian Chambliss ends up 15th.
It is Joshua Bayard in the 16th position tonight in his blue and white machine. He'll start right in front of John Fowler and Scott Brotherton. Right at the back of the top 20, you'll find the last two drivers record qualifying times in 32-second bracket. Todd Novosad and Steve Cunningham round out that bubble.
And that'll be the final driver in queue you mentioned. So the rest of these provisionally will put Malik Ray 21st and Eric Stanford 22nd. Those are two big names to look to. Kyle Trudell then starts in the 23rd spot. He's got Shane Parrish 24th and Kevin Pearson behind him, P25.
Michael Kaczynski in 26th spot, Steve Sola in 27th, Sean Kalis in the 28th spot in the Rick Motek machine. Rounding up the starting 30 positions, it is Jacob Bradford 29th and Gail Brooks rounding out the top 30.
Two new faces going to make up row 16. It'll be Michael Moser rolling from 31st and Trevor Balderrama in 32nd. Steve Durham 33rd. John Rodden 34th. Looks like he will miss the grid, however. Jonathan Lawrence also slated to go from P35, not going to take the green flag with the rest of your race leaders. Second race of this Icebreaker Winter Series campaign, 125 laps means just under 188 miles in tonight's MPHY.org 188. Let's talk a little bit about Atlanta Motor Speedway. 1.5 mile racetrack, banking at 24 degrees, but it has always been the combination of the surface and that track temp that has made this race so interesting, and that I think going to be another big factor tonight.
Absolutely, very abrasive racing surface, lots of tire fall off, and even on a cooler track temperature, you'll see cars potentially bobble around a little bit and try and basically manage the throttle off the corners. It's going to be interesting to see how the drivers adapt. You can use the higher line depending on how the track can get during the race in turns 3 and 4. The preferred line, though, might swing to the bottom with this hotter track temp. It was that case in practice.
As always, we're happy that you're spending a Monday evening with us on your home for sim racing and the iRacing Esports Network. Pace car down it in. It'll be Daniel Eberhardt trying to challenge Andrew Ferdinand on the front row as we say, let's go racing at Atlanta. Green flag in the air for more Icebreaker action.
And a clean, very clean start, in fact, for the top 2 starting positions. A few drivers got bundled up at the end of the top 10, but already Molgart letting off the gas and trying to drop back on that top side. He didn't get a start he wanted to have. Him as well as Rhett McBride both dropping back. Can't get to the bottom yet, either of them.
You can't get a spot in line, so they'll have to hold out for the moment. As you can see down the 98 machine of Washington going to the inside of the 22 of McClendon. Even further back, more side by side, the 17 of Kamer on the bottom of the racetrack of the 11 car. So a few bits of side by side as these drivers trying to navigate 1 and 2 for the first time at speed. Ferdinand was uncontested from the very front there, and he's fine for the race lead. But you can see those 4 cars in a line means 4 battles down into turn 3.
Yeah, and you can tell Holslander trying to get that top line to work. It will eventually work. On the start of these races, you will be able to potentially defend, if not battle for position. But eventually that line's going to shift back to the bottom side for at least the mid portion of the run before the top line starts to rubber up. Right now, though, with Holslander on the top line, it takes away the chance for the driver below to get back on the throttle and makes it difficult to try and defend from below that 11.
And that's the battle that you're seeing right now with Holslander on the outside of the 5 of Rhett McBride. It is for 7th position on through as the 00 of Jared Bogart able to pick up a spot over Scott McClendon. So McClendon ends up being that black-green 22 right in front of this 2-car exchange. Looked like Holslander better that time at the center, but just wasn't able to keep the foot down. A lot of drivers said they were driving like there was an egg under the pedal in that practice session, and you could see that they'd be there with Holslander not being able to get the power down like he would have wanted to on quarter exit. So this final continue. It is the first bit of side by side in your running order. Your top 2 have started to pull away a little bit. Of course, you can see those intervals at the top of the screen. Ferdinand and Eberhardt in front of the rest of the group.
Yeah, you can see right now they got a blistering quick start, and they are the two fastest cars on the racetrack in the 31 6s and 7s. Everyone else is in the 32 flats just about in terms of pace. So they have absolutely had a blistering perfect start. And it isn't a surprise. Friedrich, he thrives on these type of racetracks. We've seen that in the Cup cars, in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series. We've seen as well Eberhard win the downforce packages or like this lower downforce levels. He's usually one who can thrive. Back in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, before they switched to the more downforce package for 2019, he ran in second. Caution is out.
First yellow flag of the night. It is early, just 6 laps in. There is a car around on the back straightaway. It is John Fowler in the 89 machine. He's up and on the inside, and it looks like that it'll be just him on his own. As you can see him lose control there and try to get it back up to speed now as he tries to catch up with the group. He was in this battle for position. Watch the back end of that race car just starts to slide out on him over the nose of the 23. And I do believe he did end up making contact with Joshua Baird, who really had nowhere to go, but a tough break for Fowler, who lost it early.
Yeah, he unfortunately did the same thing in practice in the same spot on those bumps. Take a look at this once again. He was trying to complete a pass on the top side. Looked like he was about to do so, but there's a lot of bumps on the outside of turn number 2. He started hitting all of those. Immediately knows something is wrong, and then bam, right there. Helped around to the rest of the spin there as that damaged the front nose of the 23 machine to bring out the first caution.
He will take responsibility for that one and claim the opening caution. In this one, pit road is open and all your race leaders are down and in, led by Friedrich. Of course, we're talking about track temps now at 134 degrees Fahrenheit. You want tires every chance you can get. Your leaders are into the box first, and Friedrich goes too deep, misses pit stall number 1.
And Rhett McBride stopped in someone else's box here. This is a disaster for the 5 machine. So he's off and away second. Chambliss looks like he rolled through the pit lane to get a bonus point. But in the end, it's Eberhard who comes out first out of the drivers who made a stop.
Yeah, first one, really only one of that top 3 group to do what he wanted to do as he's cleaning it out. McBride was in the wrong pit box, and he did not get any service. So if the 5 car feels like he needs tires, he's going to have to come back down and around. That would, of course, cost him 20 or so positions, basically every spot on the lead lap. I wonder if he just stays out here and leads this thing back to green, knowing that he'll be at a disadvantage and just kind of have to deal with that. I don't know what he thinks he's going to lose more spots on, pitting and giving up 20 spots right away, or restarting on old tires and seeing how well he can do.
The answer to that question is do not even think about it, because the amount of tire spin on old tires, Evan, at Atlanta will be absolutely dramatic. He's elected to come down and get that service. While Chambliss did stay out on the racetrack, we'll see how things shake out there. There was a driver a lap down, 2 of them, in fact, in Lawrence and Pearson. So he does have a chance to duck down the next time by if he elected to do so. In fact, he did elect to, pardon me, this time, as Fowler gets the ELL.
So that'll cause him to start at the very back of this lead group, and with McBride giving up and coming down to the pit lane. Got the right pit stall this time through. He'll take his 4 tires and rejoin the racetrack. Through all of that, it is Daniel Eberhard, who was the first one to get a good pit stop to get out and take over the race lead in this one. He's currently the second car in line. You see the orange and black 41 of Kevin Pearson, who missed the start of the race. Wasn't on the grid in time and did eventually get going from the pit lane. He's currently 5 laps down, so he is staying out in the attempt to get one of those laps back. So when the lights go on top of the pace car, he'll get waved around, and it will be a Daniel Eberhard, David Washington front row, because the 98 was also good enough to beat Friedrich off of the pit lane, so that mistake cost the 88 2 spots.
Yeah, that's pretty big now, having to deal with a bit of dirty air. He does have friends around him amongst this top 4, but it's still going to be a difficult start, to say the very least, because Eberhard is strong when it comes to the 1.5 miles on low downforce packages. Washington, he was amongst the top 5 in practice times, along with Shane Parrish. And we know what happens with Andrew Freenosh, so it's going to be an absolutely blistering start potentially. But Andrew might have a hard time passing his two friends up here in the 98 and the 90 respectively.
Well, they're certainly not going to make it easy on him, and it was the 88 and the 90 who were able to wait for the rest of the field. David Washington has had to deal with a little bit more traffic in his UPS Ford Mustang after starting in 7th position. So he will try to see if he can join that, what was a duo up at the front of the field. Also, don't look now, Malik Ray started 21st. That was the highest provisional position. He is the 4th car in line on the bottom in the Richmond Raceway Esports Toyota. He is going to be P7 for this restart. So he made up a lot of spots off of the get-go, also executed on pit road. So that is both Washington and Ray, who are top 10 cars now, that it may be equal on speed to challenge our front row qualifiers from 10 laps ago. First caution flag, though, going to fall to the wayside as we get set to go back green flag racing at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Still a long way to go, but green flag is back out, and it's a good jump for the 90 on the inside. It'll be Everhart pacing the field to 1.
McClendon, though, had a bit of wheel spin in that 22 machine, held up the bottom, a slight touch, and already Freenosh on his way into second spot as he tries to chase once again after Eberhardt. But Mogart, the biggest benefactor of that tire spin, had a bit of a bubble, though, forcing near 3 wide with Ray.
And it is going to be 3 wide as the one looks to the inside, and the 22 of McClendon's going to be the one that bails. He'll tuck in line behind Mogard, so it stays at just 2 by 2. And if the 22 didn't give that one up, Bogart was coming down, whether he was clear or not, that would have been bad news for all of those cars in 3. Instead, Malik Ray does beat out McClendon for the battle in 5th. And now he'll set his sights on Bogart next. He's got the run at a 2, looking to the inside. This is the exact kind of car and track combo where racing skill and that driver ability can come out. And Malik Ray trying to put on a show early as he looks to crack the top 4. He'll do it.
I look back to see what he did to get through the field. It was simple. He was able to carry his more speed than the rest of the field, but Freenosh has just been let go for the race lead. Eberhardt let him go on the inside, let off the gas in turn 1. Back to the point is the 88.
Yeah, that happened into short shoot down to 1 very quickly. He showed the nose to the inside, and the 90 of Eberhardt didn't want to fight him over it, so Eberhardt did lead the last lap, but a caution flag now is out towards the back. A couple of cars involved in this one. Steve Durham is around, but it actually looks like contact further up the running order between McBride and the 02.
Yeah, Trevin having a hard time off the corner, bobbled loose to bring up the caution and collect a few cars. You're going to see it here in the 0-2. Just snaps loose on the bottom, overcorrects, nowhere for McBride to go. Durham gets turned around, and it's a chain reaction for the rest of the cars, all trying to lock it up and avoid each other and the walls. Just nowhere for a lot of those machines to go for Trevin Vanderrama. Just an overcorrection on that bottom line, a bit too low to be honest. Spun him around as he was really dealing with the bumps before that.
Yeah, and that doesn't help, but I think what may have happened, you could see on the left-hand side of your screen there, I think he was kind of in a battle with Michael Kaczynski for 23rd, and that's why he was out of line, because you could see everybody else, obviously, taking that higher line off and into the corner. His entry was really low, because he tried to establish position on the inside of the 30 in the second kink of the dog leg, and he really didn't have it. He then tried to transition back up into line, and these race cars are already on edge, and that sent it over. So a second yellow, and everybody going to go back to pit road.
And this is not a surprise here. Even though we've turned a couple laps, the tire wear is very high. And Freenosh barely got on the marks this time, right at the edge of the front road sign. And an unsafe pit entrance, apparently, for Scott McClendon.
Well, that's not going to be good news for him, as he'll have to wait and serve that penalty. Meanwhile, up front, it is going to be the 88 off first, 3 wide for second best, David Washington, ahead of Daniel Eberhardt and Malik Ray. The very first car you saw off in that group was Brian Chambliss in the 25. He completely missed his stall, drove all the way through. So that's another car that I can expect to see back down pit road.
Yeah, I think Chambliss is trying to play the point strategy game in that Bane machine. Wouldn't be surprised to see him at either 1 to go or as soon as he gets the lap credited towards his way to duck down. But basically some good starts, but Malik Ray is going to be an absolute threat on this upcoming start because he has just been blistering through the field, able to hold the throttle much more comfortably compared to everybody else he has had to pass by so far. This is going to be a challenge for even Andrew Freenosh and Daniel Eberhard up towards that front.
Only Kevin Pearson scored as a lap down car right now, but again, he will stay out and get a wave around by, of course, deciding not to come down pit road. So he had actually gotten back onto track behind your leaders 6 laps down. He got 1 lap back last time, and this time he'll go to 4 laps down. So making some progress as he tries to get back into this race.
Yeah, he, unfortunately for him, as you mentioned, missed the start. But the more the cautions come out, the more this is going to help him, right? Now he's also in the position he could be the potential lucky dog since no one else is a lap down on the circuit. So he's probably thinking, please let cautions breed cautions here because I want a chance to get back on the lead lap. One thing to note here, Evan, though, with this caution flag, there is a chance potentially on the fuel mileage for it to be a one-stopper. We were expecting as high as around 60 laps based on past trends here at Atlanta.
And of course, the concern to Pearson is that he's not going to be able to continue to get these laps back by staying out or, you know, just to get the lucky dog straight up.
Yeah.
If the yellows that he needs put more cars laps down, because then he'll actively be laps behind guys that he's trying to catch up to. So the good news for him is Rhett McBride, who was damaged in that incident, looks like also Valderrama and those other drivers, it looks like they are going to be able to stay on the lead lap. So that's good news for Pearson because he stays the only car off of the lead lap and can continue to take these wave bys as we see the lights going on top of the pace car.
Yeah, you mentioned a great point there, but if it ends up being where essentially cars don't have significant damage but end up keep on bringing out a caution after 7 to 10 laps of run, he's got a potential chance. It's going to be difficult. It might take him the whole race to get back on the lead lap, but it is doable for him to get back on that lead lap cycle. But for the lead lap cars at the head of the field, this is going to be a heck of a battle once we get back going to green.
And we'll see what this restart brings to us as it'll put 17 laps, I should say, of the 125 on the board behind us. Long way to go. That incident certainly more off the restart and I think relating into that battle for position as opposed to the other one where, you know, these tires are really going to start to fall away quickly. That one, you know, barely a lap in under green flag. Everybody still wanted to come down for 4 fresh rubbers. Pace car going to go down and in. It is an early jump for Freenosh. Green flag back in the air. And your pulse hitters back in the clean air. Out in front of a battle for second behind him.
And right now, Washington might give the spot to the 90 machine. Indeed, will do so as he has that bottom. But here comes that Richmond Raceway Esports machine. He has been on a tear since the start of this race. Make it plus 18, Evan, from the drop of the green flag of today's event. Ray up to third.
And he gets that spot away. Eberhard in front now, the next one. But look at Washington, not willing to give this one up. He'll put it right on the bumper and push down to turn 1 as he tried to go for the crossover, challenge him back. I think David Washington really aggressive. There's the no shot, looking up to the bumper to the one of Malik Ray. Plastered on him, but Malik Ray is going to win out in that battle. And Eberhard quickly in the headlights, now down into turn 3.
And Ray, despite all the battling there for the moment, he was third quickest off the jump of the gun. However, it looks like Washington a little bit better off the corners. Ray knows this. He's trying to block all the way down to the bottom of the dog leg.
Yeah, trying to take away exactly what the 98 wants to do. An impressive run here for Washington. I thought Malik Ray passed him, and that was going to be it, but he's been able to drive it in. It is the drive off there where you see the one car separate himself once more. So Malik Ray now with a little bit of an advantage. He's about a 0.3 second difference up to Eberhard. That's the same gap that Eberhard sees between he and the race leader Andrew Freenosh. It was a 2-car breakaway at the very start. Now it looks like it might be 4 or 5, a little bit further back in the running order. You can see that 11 Hulslander, race winner from Daytona just 1 week ago, in a battle with the 7 of Kyle Trudel in this position. You've also got the 2-car mixed up there. Quiet night for Sam Nieto, who's dropped back a few.
For a guy who started in 3rd position, it's been a stellar start for Nieto compared to what we've seen at Daytona. He has been looking fairly confident in his green, black, and white Ford Mustang, but look behind them. Holslander looks like he's going to give up the ghost and give the 7 machine, P number 7, on that bottom line.
So Trudeau gains a position. He's another one of your bigger movers. Again, the top 20 were the drivers who qualified in. So we mentioned Malik Ray going 21st to 3rd. Trudeau's gone 23rd to 7th. So he's another one of those big chargers as we take a look back at the battle for 2nd position. Eberhardt now feeling the heat from Malik Ray. He's been able to pull away a little bit from Washington and get this battle for 2nd going. You're on board with his Toyota Supra down into 1. Keeping in mind that Eberhardt's being reeled in by Ray, while he is simultaneously reeling in Andrew Ferdinand from the race lead. Look at him sawing on that wheel in tricky turn 2.
Yeah, that will lose Ray a little bit of time, but he is one of the fastest, if not the fastest car on the racetrack. He had the quickest time last time, and I think he knows it. That little bit of a wheel saw cost him some speed, yes, in 3 and 4. But he's trying to set himself up to make the move on Eberhardt because I think there's a chance he can make this move. Fastest lap shifting over to Freenosh after that wheel saw last time by as the cloud starts shuffling over the track.
And that might cool things down a little bit as the dynamic track and dynamic sky and weather in the iRacing service play a big effect in any race. But especially tonight with these extreme temps, and I guess that's how AMS gets, and of course the city of Atlanta gets that nickname, Hot Atlanta. Obviously, real hot conditions. It's only, 84 degrees, but the track temp is what's getting beaten down on, so that cloud cover will cool things down a little bit, and I'm not sure how much is going to help these drivers out, get them some relief, but what we are seeing is 3 great race car drivers wheeling it at the front of the field here, and you can see those top 3 now separating themselves from 4th on back.
Yeah, right now that gap about 0.6 of a second, in fact, as Washington has started to fall off the table a little bit in terms of pace. These drivers in the 32 2s and 3s, everybody else behind them, 32 4s and 5s inside the top 10. These are the best of the best drivers when it comes to this car and this downforce package at these types of racetracks, and a mistake for the 90 just set up Ray for the run.
He'll look to the inside in the run down to turn number 3, and we are going to go side by side, but a yellow just as he made the challenge. John Fowler is around on the front straightaway. That is the number 89 machine, and it looks like it is going to be all on his own from position number 26. There it is on the LSR TV replay. The struggle is with the back end of the car, and it just goes around on him off of the corner, so much so that, it's a literal example of oversteer. You'll see when this car gets to 4 that it just keeps rotating. He gets into the grass, and unfortunately, he goes back up and into the outside wall. Great evasive effort by Jonathan Lawrence to avoid it. The onboard shot will show you what he was feeling.
Yeah, you can see started to feel the bumps, started shuffling the steering wheel, but then that's where that egg feeling in the throttle comes in. Hit the throttle too hard, overcorrected, just couldn't save it as he crashed into the start and finish line wall, and then just got launched off that wall in towards the grass in the middle of the quad oval. But you're going to see from some of the drivers here, they had to, as you mentioned, take major evasive action into the grass because he spun across 2 or 3 different drivers. Gonna see this a bit from the onboard, not from the specific angle part of me there, but you can see compared to Ross Cato, he was able to get there very cleanly with the grip levels as everyone's into the pit lane.
Yep, back down to pit road once more, and it is a drag race to the final 2 pit stalls where Ferdinand and Eberhardt will find themselves again looking to race off for the pit lane for 4 tires. You can see the other drivers in the box as well. The call is going to be the same. 4 tires and gas off of pit road. He got it. The 90 car will edge it out. And just as he was about to lose 2nd position, a yellow comes out. He pits from P2, and he'll be your new race leader at Atlanta Motor Speedway. How about that turn of fate for Daniel Eberhardt?
Yeah, indeed. And remember, they can make it a 1 more stop from here on the field for sure now. Just be able to split it at the 50 laps to go mark if it goes green. That's the major key. But remember last time, though, Evan, when Daniel was in the lead, he let Andrew go in the second. He got the run. Now that he's back up at the front with just one pit stop to think about, it's going to become the question, does Daniel defend this time and fight for the lead? Or does he try and think of the big picture and let Andrew by and save his equipment for the long run?
And we'll see, because, I mean, we kind of had an expectation in talking with the drivers and, of course, seeing how things were playing out in the practice session that this may not be a race where you go all the way to the end on a long green flag run, just because the incidents aren't necessarily going to come from like a Daytona when you got a lot of cars packed together. I think you're just as likely to spin out one lap off for the restart when you're too wide as you are 15 laps off for the restart on your own. So it's going to come down to a lot of those single car incidents, which we've already seen tonight. And that would tell me that the long game may not be the winning one. Of course, there is no way to know. And that's part of the dilemma that these drivers face when trying to make a decision on that strategy call.
That's exactly the point I was thinking about on top of that. But you also have to think of the other side there, Evan, where Daniel's got track position. He's a top 3 car on the racetrack. If he ends up fighting too long with Andrew Friedosh, that puts him in a situation where, with one of his corporate teammates, he might put himself into a compromised spot in that no-name motorsports machine. And do you want to be the man who wrecks your alliance teammate? No. You want to try and keep the track position and try and think of the overall points haul, because remember, Daniel, despite having the most laps led, was one of the drivers in a great situation at Daytona. Ended up finishing in just the back half of the top 20 after that incident we seen that brought out, that eventually triggered the green GWCs in that race.
The Fowler will get sent to the back, and of course will get sent for another restart. John Fowler already running 2 laps down, so it's not really going to do anything. His night may in fact be done as he's sitting down in the pit stall. You also have Kevin Pearson, whose night is done. He was the one that was trying to get himself back through to the correct position after starting from laps down. He is now out of the race, so that charge is to an end also.
That's unfortunate there for sure, but there's still a ways to go in this race. And from what we've seen, the drivers have been dealing massively with loose to cause a lot of these spins, more so off turn 2. But that cloud cover we were mentioning is going to help a little bit. The track temperature dropped from 135 degrees Fahrenheit under that caution flag to 128 degrees. However, as these cars run with anger across the track and build the rubber back up, that will slowly creep up. So it's going to get interesting how this will go under this cloud cover.
2 in the afternoon on the iRacing service. That's why it's hot from Atlanta. We get set to see what the Donnie car can do from the top spot again. Green flag back in the air, and he may not have to worry about freinage immediately because the challenger is David Washington. Washington to the inside of the 88 for second, and it's kind of blocking Malik Ray in. The 1 car nowhere to go. He sits in third. Does he go to the middle maybe now? As he took a peek at the back straightaway. Won't happen. David Washington up to second. Now they'll fight for third.
McLennan nearly spinning at the back of the field, but still green. A huge checkup from Washington getting off the gas. And he's trying to let the 88 go on that outside line. This is getting a bit dicey here. What will Ray decide to do? It looks like he knows that Washington's struggling a little bit in terms of that bottom line grip. Ray trying to take advantage. Wouldn't be surprised to see him duck at 3 wide. Yes, he will.
Oh, there it is. That run off of the center. The 98's going to block him all the way down to the apron. But Malik Ray is not going to give an inch. He'll drive it into the corner and move it out of the way. David Washington played a game of chicken and lost as Malik Ray moves him to take that spot away.
And I'm not surprised he went down that low, knowing he was slower. He wanted to get that position. And that was a very, very interesting decision to block that low. Now Washington has lost all his track position and now at the back half of the top 10 in that 98 machine. Again, let's take a quick look. Trying to block a little bit down the dog leg, was already slow off turn 3 and 4 a bit. And then Ray, knowing he's quicker, cuts it down, bobbles it down. Washington actually got loose, but then Washington tried to pinch down and try and keep it too wide. Ray, he had to come up eventually, just swings up a touch because in that racing incident, he had to eventually make the corner, Evan. And in that case, Ray, not afraid to use a bit of the door to do so.
Yeah, that thing wasn't going to sink at the bottom, and now a battle for the race lead once more. Same result as earlier. Everhart not wanting to fight with Ferdinand. Let the 88 go on the inside, so Ferdinand will go back to the point. And now Daniel Eberhardt finds himself where he was before the most race of the yellow. In second position, Ferdinand pulling a little bit with Malik Ray on the bumper. And as they say that, it was not a good navigation to turn 2 for the 88 car. So Eberhardt gets right back up on his deck lid into turn 3. But nothing will come from it now. Malik Ray just a matter of time and nearly got into him there on corner entry.
I think he actually did just barely touch him. If it was a touch, it was just minuscule off the bumper because Eberhardt really let off the gas very hard on that one because of how much the slowdown was. It looks like Ray is feeling much more confident in that gas on corner entry compared to the 2 cars in front. That's why he was 0.3 quicker that lap before the checkup in 3.
And I think he's better both ends of the corner as well, because when we saw the battle that included David Washington, both Washington and Malik Ray picked up better center of the corner off than that 90 machine had, in some of the previous battles, and how Andrew Ferdinand even was in the battle just a few laps ago. It was center off where he got that big drive. That's why Malik Ray got to the inside of Washington, because he just had that better drive center off of the corner. So if you're good in and you're good out, that is very bad news for the rest of the field. And of course, he's not going to be able to just stroll up and pass the naughty car here like he's taking the kids' lunch money, but he is going to continue to apply that pressure, and any small bobble, any little inch that you give him, he's going to jump on it. And if you don't believe me, just talk to the 98 of David Washington, who, by the way, has found himself settled down P6 in an own fight to his own regard. But again, it is a top 3 lead group breakaway. Sam Niato, a little bit of a resurgence in 4th spot. The 2 car started in 3rd. He dropped back a few positions in the opening couple of stints. He has since picked those spots back up, and his pace is increasing.
This is the best I've seen him drive in a long time of the iRacing service. Had a bit of a bobble that time, though, to just fall a touch out of the draft off of turn 4. But it's been a stellar drive for him. I think he was held up a little bit in the battles before with Washington and so forth. But now that he's got a bit more cleaner space and some chance to breathe and get into a rhythm, that's helping him try and reel in this top 3, which at this moment looks content on being in the drafting train. However, Ray is using that little touch of the apron. Some drivers were talking about it at some various circuits to just barely tap it to help with rotation. Ray seems to be wanting to do that a little bit in the corners right now, just at the edge of that white line to give it a little bit extra bite.
And we'll see how that plays out as these drivers continue to work deeper into the run now. Currently working lap number 40 of 125 this afternoon from Atlanta. Ferdinand Eberhardt Ray still that top 3 breakaway. 30 cars still on the lead lap. Only Valderrama, Durham are off of the lead lap, but still in this race. Fowler and Pearson are in the garage. Their nights are done. Here's the challenge now for P2, and it is again the 1 car on the inside. Eberhardt pinched him a little bit there in the center. Malik Ray is going to have the positioning down the back straight away, but really sideways there, trying to dig down low.
Yeah, Eberhardt had to lift off the gas again up on the top line to make sure he didn't push up. But we've seen many times with the crazy finishers in the history of this track that you're able to get the run off. That time they nearly make contact, forcing Eberhardt off the gas.
Yeah, he really got into him, and I think it was Eberhardt who came off of the fence a little bit. Malik Ray trying to pinch. He knew exactly what he was doing, and it has worked. Malik Ray now to a race-high position number 2 as he's driven the way through the field from 21st. He is the hard charger in this race, and now only 1 car stands between him and the top of the scoring pylon, and it's the man who has pocketed the last 3 officially sanctioned RSR championships in Andrew Ferdinand.
Yeah, and this is going to be a stellar fight. These 2 drivers, when you think back to the charity race broadcast on LSR TV just a few weeks ago, those 2 drivers were the contenders. But now they're starting to deal with a bit of lap traffic. Some of the drivers having to pull off the racetrack. It's going to get very dicey now. Steve Durham, they just lapped. They already passed by Bradford, who got an instant down the backstretch. And it's going to be even tougher for, say, these drivers who are too wide to try and figure out where am I going to pass this lap car if we get to the wrong spot. Holslander, Washington, Trudell, and Mogart all in this shot going to the bottom.
And they're side by side, so the lapped cars saw it coming, and the 7 didn't really care. They probably could have squeezed through 3 wide. Very aware of the situation was Durham, but still the 7 came across the nose at the 00 of Mogart, and it paid out as he was able to kind of play another game of chicken. 00 lifted, gave him the spot. So Trudell wins that battle for 7th again. Malik Ray is not the only big mover in this, going 21st to 2nd, because you got Trudell, who started 23rd, runs in 7th. Eric Stanford started 22nd. He runs in 10th. And Jada Parrish started 24th. He runs up at a number 12 spot. So a lot of fast cars that didn't take qualifying earlier this afternoon are obviously using the green flag laps to their advantage and working forwards.
Hold on a second. We got a car spinning down the backstretch. Bobby Krug just spun it.
No caution yet. We're going to stay green as Krug is slow in the 51 car. It was, no, he did have some help. He and the 10 of Steve Durham got together. So was just talking about Durham being aware. Look at the 10 car. He moved up, got out of the way. The 51 just wasn't clear and came up on him, and it upsets that race car, and he spends the whole trip down the backstretch trying to hang on to it, and eventually does get into the inside wall. That incident was, of course, off of the racing surface, and it did not involve 3 or more cars, so there is no caution, and we stay green.
Yeah, just bad luck absolutely there. Thought he was clear just at the very edge of the quarter panel. And keep an eye, he's already getting loose on the bumps, trying to ride the bottom side, needs to come back up. That contact right there. Thinks he's got it safe, tries to turn it back up a touch. Unfortunately, the car isn't completely settled down with the weight shift, and it weight shifts its way back into the inside wall. Again, we stay green as this has gone on, though. Holslander, he's fallen back to 6th spot, and the battle has started to shuffle around between Mogart, Trudell, and that group.
Yeah, Truda actually was in front of Holslander the last time around, but you can see the 11 gets position number 6 back from him. But Trudell is kind of the one on the move here, so he'll obviously try to just maintain this position and get it back from him. They're also catching up to the 98 of Daniel Eberhardt, who looked just, or David Washington, sorry, who looked just as sporty as anybody else in those first few laps off for the restart. But obviously after that big slide and contact with Malik Ray, has dropped the back and struggled. And you'll see Trudell now look to the inside of Holslander in a battle for 6th.
The battles are heating up, but the question is how long will it stay green? Another car, the 54, spun out on the backstretch on their own in an incident. So this track is getting excessively slick as that 7 rides the bottom, the best we've seen all day today out of turn 2.
Yeah, it was the 54 of Mosier who spun around to out of turn 2 and did get into the inside wall. Again, no caution. It'll be stay green. You just saw a glimpse of that car on the apron down in 3 and 4. So turn 2 continues to be calamity quarter here at Atlanta, as Kyle Trudell's been able to establish positioning here and tries to take on Washington in a battle that would be for the final spot in the top 5. And he's got a huge run that time at a 2. Lost it a little bit as he kind of came up and out of the corner. So he'll have to set back up and try it again.
Yeah, and the cars are getting more and more slippery. This time, Cunningham had lost it down the backstretch. But again, to focus back on this battle, seems like Trudell is more comfortable on the bottom. The thing is, Washington seems to be having a lot of tire slippage off the corners, tries to stick the white line, but as soon as he wants to get back in the power, it just seems to start to shoot up the track. That tight sensation we were talking about, he has to get off the gas and turn because of that, as well as to make sure he doesn't hit it too hard to have it snap going so tight it gets loose. And that in turn means you end up being slower, and now that means, in other words, the 7 much more comfortable right now than the 98 in terms of how his tires are. But the track temp is starting to slightly cool off a touch.
And that's going to help as it continues to sit below 130, which certainly helps things. Of course, the deeper into the run you get, and more rubber gets put down, but the track state does carry over from the hour and 20-minute long practice session from earlier in the night. So they do start the race with some rubber, although I do believe track state and marbles do get cleared off in between the two sessions. But of course, as more rubber gets put down, you're going to have a tad bit more grip. You can move laterally on the racetrack. As here's the look to the inside as Showdown wants to take that spot from Washington. In turn one, he's not going to go all the way to the bottom. Now he does. As you can see, the 7 car will have to deal with the bumps. Washington to his outside, and the 7 didn't really come up and off at the corner like you would have expected. He held that very inside all the way through the exit, and it didn't pay out for him as Washington stays in front, coming down, and he's sideways on the nose of the 7 car, somehow hanging on to it, and I think Trudeau might have cut him a break there.
Trudeau was actually getting arrow loose along with them, it seemed. He was cocking the steering wheel back and forth as well in 3 and 4. So both of them had to get off the gas and try and save it. Stellar save from both of them to make sure they didn't bobble loose off of turn 4, as we've seen by a few drivers today. By the way, a stellar fight now going on behind them, though, for 7. Holzleiter and Mogart have been going back and forth like a cat and dog fight for the past 5 to 6 laps now.
And it's Holzleiter who's trying to hook that car up on the bottom line, and it was Mogart right up against the fence at a 4. Holzleiter does get his nose back in front this battle for number 7 and 8 positions on the racetrack. He had him at the stripe, but it looks like at 1 and 2 way out the racetrack is Mogart. He's very good on that outside line, and he almost got cut off, and he's into the fence now. Mogart sideways at the back straightaway, and he will hang on. What a save as he nearly got squeezed into the fence.
Yeah, and right now already being told that the apologies coming through from the 11. Let's take a look at this on board. They were already getting very loose, both of these cars going back and forth. Mogart actually pushing very tight, trying to run that Kyle Larson line, but the thing is, 11 not expecting to run that line with the amount of momentum, accidentally comes up, and a huge save to make sure he didn't snap it down the backstretch, as we've seen from 1 or 2 cars so far today. Loses some time, does get some right side damage on the race car, but for the most part, it could have been much more worse. He did fall outside the top 10 though, and will take some time though to recover some of that speed and that grip.
So a tough break, certainly, but in the grand scheme of things, could have been a lot worse for Mogart. And you mentioned the apologies. Holzleiter immediately came over the radio and apologized for squeezing him up like that. He did catch himself before he actually came all the way up and drove him into the fence. But still, I think it was that threat of the 11 coming up that spooked Mogart, and that's why he ended up in the wall at a turn 2. So now he'll have to deal with not only dropping back 3 positions to 11th, but Shane Parrish wants to make it a 4th one. The 18 car looking on the outside. They'll try to kind of wind this thing up and make a duck to the bottom. He's got the run, and he'll look to the inside, and the race down to 1.
Yeah, that bit of aero damage is really starting to affect the Mogart, though. He needs a caution to fix that, because not only does the right front fender have a lot of damage, and he's struggling with handling. Right now, he's potentially maybe even some damage to the suspension, as well as tore up the right rear quarter panel. If that quarter panel is indeed curled in, which it is on the 00, you end up being in a situation where you can lose as much of a 10th or 2 a lap trying to fight the car with how loose it can get, because the aerodynamics on the Mogart's car are that skewed around. Compare that to that 18 machine of Shane Parrish. You're able to plan it much more carefully, even with the hot track, mind you, compared to what you have with aero damage.
Continuing to close in on the halfway point of this MPHY.org 188. Just 2-3 laps away from that point. When we get there, we'll take a look top to bottom at your full field rundown, and as well kind of remind you of what's happened in this opening half. But that double omission to Mogart really continuing to struggle. Stanford, Cato, more drivers coming through here now to take those positions away.
And the 3 going around in the backdrop.
No yellow again for Brother Tid. We're going to stay green. It was on his own. Very minor spin as he got loose going to the outside of Galen Gideon for position. Got sideways, locked it up, and saved it. The LSR TV replay here will show you what you missed. Watch the 3 car. It's that change of line into the corner. We saw Valderrama do the same thing. Try to go bottom to top. He tries to get to the outside to pass. It gets sideways, and he did a very good job of recovering, though.
Yeah, he might have thought, I'm going to be able to potentially power on by on the outside. The problem is, well, there's been drivers getting loose on that line all race long. So that time just got a little bit too hard on the gas. Should note, we did see someone hit Thomas George trying a different strategy. He might be trying to prioritize the tires, Evan, more than the fuel in that 9 machine.
And based on all that we've talked about tonight, that would not shock me at all if more drivers opt to come down to the pit lane sooner rather than later as well. But this time by 62 laps going to be down for Andrew Friedage as we take halfway home from Atlanta. Let's take a look top to bottom at our Ford Entertainment Group midway race break. Friedage leads at 62 with Malik Ray, the number 2 position. Daniel Eberhardt's 3rd, Sam Nieto's 4th, and Kyle Trudell rounds out your top 5. Nick Holslander's in position number 6. Bobby Terrell quietly up to P7 with Galen Gidman in 8th position. Eric Sanford in the top 10 now. He's 9th with Mogard behind in P10 continuing to fall.
Yeah, he actually snapped loose in turn 4, nearly spun it around. Kyle Kamer passed right on by him to get into the top 10. Scott McClendon also moving up the running order in 11th in that. Brian Chambliss is in 13th with Steve Sowa in 14th. Joshua Bayard having a quiet race in 15th since getting that front end damage. Does have some back end damage. Ross Cato did come down to pit. He's 1 lap down. He joins Jonathan Lawrence in that lap cycle, who is also in the pit lane at the moment behind that scoring pylon. Thomas J. George and Shane Parrish also electing to come down to the pit lane in that sequence, as well as Sean Kalis. So a lot of shuffling inside that top 20 in the running order at the moment here, Evan.
It's kind of a pit stop recap because all these cars are locked down and pitted. So 21st, Steve Cunningham, he's been to pit road. So is Todd Novosad, who's 22nd. David Washington, 23rd. With Scott Brotherton, 24th. And Michael Kaczynski in P25. Michael Mosier, along with Bobby Krug, Steve Durham, Trevor Valderrama, and Rhett McBride through position 30. And then to round it all out, you've also got Gail Brooks, Jacob Bradford, John Fowler, and Kevin Pearson at the bottom. It'll be a look top to bottom at your Ford Entertainment Group midway race break. FEG PC has been serving the iRacing community with custom-built affordable computers specifically built and tuned for iRacing. Your PC will come with everything you need preloaded so you can get racing as soon as it hits your doorstep. Get yours today and join the over 600 iRacers already enjoying a Ford Entertainment Group build. Computers to fit every budget from $540 and up. Go to FEGPC.net and mention code LSRTV10 to get your build quoted today. So everybody flocking to pit road, except the fastest of the fastest. Nobody up in the top 3 pitting. It's still Friedage, Ray, and Eberhardt.
And I don't blame him for trying the different strategy, though, to try and pass these machines in the long picture if it stays green, because you're not going to win the race by doing the same thing or following them on the exact same lap cycle or even within the same couple laps or so. If you try and out-strategize them, there's the chance you can win the race. But we were about to see some of them pit. Malik Ray shouting to the drivers on the radio, he's pitting this time.
And this is going to cause a response from pretty much everybody else out on the racetrack. He locked it up, and he still gets it down in time to pit speed of 50 miles an hour. What a late call by Malik Ray. That car was sideways to the line, but he did get it to speed, and he'll get his 4 tires. Expect everybody else to follow suit now.
Well, he's seen two things. One, he had a hole in the traffic to get down there in time, and 2, Friedage was already in a spot where he couldn't try and follow if he gave a command. Friedage that time all over the track having to let by traffic. So now it's going to become the question, when does the 88 come down? He's saying this next time by for him.
Well, as soon as Malik Ray came over the radio and said that I'm pitting, a couple of other drivers echoed that. Steve Sella, one of them, who had taken over a top 10 spot, and the 90 car of Everhart with a close call on the back straightaway there. That was Steve Durham, who has dropped down to get out of the way. He kind of crossed over the nose in between 2 fast cars, and was kind of a close call there, but Freenage up front is in. Here he comes off the banking down to pit road. Everhart from second position will follow suit, but that may be too hot. He was at about 60 miles an hour, and there is a little bit of a grace, but I wouldn't be shocked if he'll get nailed for that.
Yeah, 63 at the cone, but it is an average. He went down to 47 by the end of the first section. So it's going to be an absolute question. Will they actually do the penalty? But Ray was the first of the drivers of the pit. He'll have a couple lap older tires, but that amount of difference on the track could potentially be absolutely massive with the fall off. The fall off today, 2.5 seconds as Freenage is off and away.
And the little bit further, though, that these race leaders were able to go, and you can see that Audi car now sitting in the box. Daniel Eberhardt is serving that penalty for too fast on entry. That is going to take him out of an already tall task in a battle for the race lead against Eberhardt. But the little benefit, I mean, just that 5 to 10 lap difference, Justin, for your race leaders to be able to go longer than that first group of cars that came down pit road helps them a lot, because ideally you would like to make your pit strategy based on the fuel, because the more times you come down pit road, obviously the more time you're giving up, so you want to be able to stretch it to the limit. If you're going to based on tires, and I think our race leaders are still doing that, but they're able to get a little bit more out of it, you give up so much less time if this compounds to eliminating a pit stop out of it in the grand scheme of things. I mean, we're closing in at about to 50 laps to go. That probably puts our race leaders, based on what they've been doing with the tires, to probably still one-stop this to the end instead of just running it through.
I mean, they can make it on the fuel. That's the one thing, but there is that possibility. It all comes down really to how they think this race is going to play out, because this is still a very hot racetrack. These drivers are still dealing with the very slick situations. There's a lot that can still happen, though. By the way, the reason we've been looking at Ray, he cycled to the race lead by 4 seconds. And he just passed by Kyle Kamer, in fact, as we look at one of the other battles of drivers yet to pit. Gidman and Holslander amongst the drivers fighting as Kato drives on by the Fast Forward Esports Machines teammate up in front.
He's going to be able to get on by, so as this cycles through, we do expect Malik Ray to become the race leader. His lap time's about a tenth slower than Freenage, but his advantage is in excess of 3 seconds, so he should be okay. So it is a top 4 group that is yet to come down pit road, and you're watching the slower cars in the group. Yeah, those are the leaders. The 94, Galen Gidman, is actually your current race leader, battling with Nick Holslander for the lead in the 11 car. Tucked in behind him, you also have Bobby Terrell in the 4, now as the third and final car in this group, who is yet to come down to the pit lane as well. This stretch strategy could make this overall run for them a one-stopper. If your race leaders who have already pitted once pit again, that two-stopper could make this long run and only a one-stop a plausible strategy. And I think in a race with so much tire variance, why not try to swing for the fences and mix it up? I'm not shocked that, you know, the likes of Bobby Terrell and Galen Gidman are going for it. They had speed in their cars. They were top 15, top 10 cars, but they needed a little bit extra. Admittedly, I am surprised to see Holslander in this group, considering how sporty he looked early on, but has kind of struggled on the last few runs.
And just like that, Gidman's coming in this time by here at the 50 to go mark, but they can make it an extra 10 laps. It's a high risk, high reward move. I know it's a common saying, but it is that case right now where if it stays green, they'll have the freshest tires on the track by at least 10 to 20 laps on some of the race cars. And there's a chance they can game up a lot of the time. It will not be a lot of time to do so, we should note, of course, but there's a chance they might be able to do something. It's going to be an absolute gamble. I don't know how it's going to work out is the main thing.
Well, the last time Holslander, who stays out and is still out here, last time he was on pit road, I believe, was under the caution at lap number 29. So it has been quite a run since then. Obviously going the 50 laps that he would need, or about the 50 laps that he would need to be able to split this entirety of the run into one single pit stop. Now, of course, he's much slower than the guys who have pitted, 2 seconds slower. His last lap was a 34.8. Malik Ray just ran a 32.4. So he is slower, so you have to hope that the time that you're giving up on track with old tires does not surpass the amount of time it takes for those cars to come and get service to get fresh rubber. And that's kind of the equilibrium on if, it is worth it or if it is not. But at this point, he seems committed to it.
He has to be committed to it at this point. Needs to hope for either a caution or needs to basically stretch to the end of the fuel run, because that's the strategy he's now been accomplished on. But if you go towards the second place battle at the moment, remember that's Ray and Freenosh who are about to reach this 11 machine out of turn number 4. The gap between those cars is down to just about 2 seconds as Ray will take the overall race lead on the bottom.
He'll pass by the 11 and Nick Hulslander, and yes, they are on 2 very different strategies, and I'm not sure how much that pass is going to affect him. It might be kind of the marker that he was waiting on to pit, so Hulslander may be coming in this time, but it is Malik Ray back to the race lead, still running slower than Andrew Freenosh, though, so I would not give up on this. As you can see as they come off of the quarter here, a couple of drivers chatting on the radio, but nobody diving down. Freenosh's gap back from Hulslander was over 4 seconds. That is now down significantly.
Apparently, Hulslander wanted to pit that time by. That's where there was the squabbling there. They're trying to forward it from Ray. Ray's helping communicate that to Freenosh. That actually is going to not help Hulslander a little bit and lose him a bit more time. But that Richmond Raceway Esports machine, just a 1.4 second gap. The fresher tires of Freenosh, just that couple lap difference, is just coming back to bite that one car because of how much fall off there is even on that little bit of tire differential as Hulslander is in.
And this might be good if it's in the cards for Freenosh, who has the better long-run speed now, to maybe run this one out instead of going for the 2-stopper. There is Hulslander. You mentioned he was able to get in this time. He was on the bottom line, which is the preferred line for Freenosh, and that radio communication came a little bit late from Malik Ray. That's why he was unable to pit, because essentially the 88 turned underneath him on the exit of 4, where he would have dived, or tried to have dived down, and Freenosh did apologize, and I didn't catch that in time, so it was a good pickup by those veteran drivers, even amidst the miscommunication, for Hulslander to notice that and abort that entry, and also for Freenosh to kind of own up and apologize right away. So a lot of veteran moves there in that exchange. But we do think Freenosh is going to get to Malik Ray. Still 2.5 tenths better. The question is, if they do need to pit once more, then you would think Malik Ray would try to stretch it out to try to counteract the disadvantage that he's at right now. We'll go 3 wide with Malik Ray up the middle, some lap traffic. So he needs to get through all of this without trouble to try to give not waste as much time as possible. Freenosh taking a little bit easier, and Malik Ray kind of bonsaied it through the middle there.
I think Ray knew that if he did take his time, Freenosh would have attacked him quickly. Now Freenosh going to have to attack that bottom line. It looks like the lap car is going to give him the line. That's the 54 of Moser, who went off in the grass actually before Ray passed on by him in the Monster Energy machine.
Yeah, trying to hold position. Moser was one of the drivers who had a self-spin on this run. I mean, there were multiple single car incidents since we went to caution last that did not lead to yellows, and for the 54 car, he was one of them. So that's why Moser currently sits 6 laps down in the number 24 position, but I think relatively okay, as he decided just to get that thing fixed and then get it back out on track. So that's why, Moser's a couple of laps down. He was one of those drivers that had a self-spin, and when you wreck, it's bad enough, but when you don't have a yellow, you don't really get any free time to get that car repaired, so that only makes it worse.
Yeah, it's just been a struggle bus for him at this point, and even just 10 seconds of aerodynamic optional damage loses you a couple miles per hour down the straightaways. Get a quick shout out again to that 54 machine with that matte black, of course, a part of the new build for iRacing that happened last week. They added the ability to have spec paint scheme, spec layers to the paint schemes rather. Spec maps is the thick term, pardon me there. The 54 electing to go with the matte design on the Monster Energy machine.
Yeah, that's kind of the signature Monster Energy look, and Moser's rocking that number 54 machine. A couple of other cars also rocking some matte. Of course, you could also go for the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and you can go that metallic chrome. I don't see anybody rocking a ton of chrome. Of course, it has just been a week, and as somebody who has painted a couple of cars in the field, I can tell you The spec maps are very confusing, so I expect as the weeks go on, we'll see more drivers implementing either the matte or that chrome into their paint schemes. Just one of the latest things that iRacing continues to add and work into with trading paints specifically to get that to the service, just add to the overall experience. We did see Washington drop down to the pit lane at lap number 85, so he's going to be down and in for service. And the battle for the race lead is on. If you ignore the 19, oh, and a big bobble by Malik Ray, who tried to make that transition to the outside line, center of the corner, and we have seen many examples tonight of why that doesn't work, and he almost fenced it.
Yeah, that could have been disastrous. Lap traffic gets loose. Eric Stanford lost the back end of the race car. And here comes Andrew with the chance to try and rise up with the slightly fresher tires. Everybody trying to dart forward as lap traffic stays as high as they can to keep out of the way of the battle for this lead.
I think as soon as Stanford got sideways, he just tried to pull it right back down to the apron, because if he snapped it back up the hill, he would have taken out Malik Ray, who was going to the outside of him to try to make that pass. So he just ducked way down, some cars going way high, trying to give your race leaders as much room as possible. And at least in the battles for position, they have tons of it. 11 seconds ahead of Kyle Trudell. In third is this fight between Malik Ray and Faridaj. And while Faridaj has been closing in at a pretty good rate ever since the pit stops, those tires have gotten close to evening out just as they find themselves on top of each other.
That's what Ray was hoping for, I think, with the little bit of the undercut. Trying to hope that Faridaj would have to take extra time and burn up his equipment trying to reel him in. And then hope he can defend and make it difficult for that 88 machine to make the pass. Here's the gamble, though. Remember Andrew Faridaj's history in this series. He is the king of saving tires for the long run on low downforce tracks. That time he hit the apron and pushed up the track.
And now he's going to lose precious time. Next lapped car on the horizon, the 66 of Jonathan Lawrence going to get passed on through. And Faridaj has to try to build this back up. There's still ample time, but now closing in on 30 laps to go. You can only make so many mistakes because it's very easy to bobble up the hill that'll cost you a second. The problem is it's going to take you half a dozen laps to get that second back. So these drivers really need to be careful here. They've both been bobbling and struggling. Kind of reminds me of some of the old battles. Look back to a Cup Series race at Atlanta with Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon going at it. You got two very good sim racers here fighting hard, trying to limit mistakes, while also sliding all over the racetrack as the 88 tries to clamp down on the one. Here comes Holslander, who again stayed out, led a lot of this race. He's on better tires, so he's going to have to be careful, but should be able to navigate by these two. He, of course, is going the distance in this race. Well, there's still a chance your race leaders may want service.
Yeah, there is still that slight chance. Guys like Thomas J. George also might be in that window as well, since he pit at 66 laps to go and is about to fall one lap down. But this is going to make it a bit more difficult for Andrew. That time, Holslander actually came up to his bumper, and the thing is, with that 88 machine, he is really getting loose off a turn 2 exit right now, trying to reel in the gap, and that's kind of hurting him. This might help him. Ray has to get off the gas to let by his teammate.
He is going to kind of give the 11 a break there and allow Holslander to get on through. That's maybe what we saw when we nearly had that incident earlier with Holslander and some lap traffic up on the outside of 2, that you almost expect that lapped car to yield a little bit more off of the corner exit just so you can take that turn like you would have wanted. I don't think it really cost Malik Ray a ton of time. He's still running about 6-7 car lengths the top of the 88 of Faridaj, and I mean, they look pretty even right now. Faridaj is a lot more aggressively down on that white line, maybe trying to get that thing to rotate or to stay as low as possible over the ones a little bit higher up. Couple more cars ducking down for their second and final trip to pit road. Ross Cato, Steve Soa, those drivers in, taking that 2-car stop strategy that we'd kind of expected some of the field to be doing. The real question is, of course, not are those 15s and 20s cars going to be making those calls, but other race leaders going to be doing it. Malik Ray on the radio at lap number 95, and they will indeed decide to go for the two-stopper sideways again, but right on the mark as Malik Ray gives up the race lead.
Yeah, he might be having a little bit of nervous moments, to say the very least. And now it becomes the question, does Andrew try and go for the two-stopper? Look on this. He already knew he was getting loose, already knew he was getting stuck in traffic, and decided, you know what? I'm going to start to try and come into the pit road and get these fresh tires before the cliff goes off to the 34-second mark. Just may have had a little bit too much brake bias at the slick track, but a heck of a talk to the left side of the steering wheel column to try and lock it down and get it just a speed limit in time for the cone.
And I think he's having fun with it when he gets down onto the brakes there and slides it in, because he was still, I mean, money on hitting that pit road speed marker. He is in and out, and now the question is, you know, how long do you wait to respond if you're Ferdinand? Because the thing that helped him on this run was he waited a little bit and had the better tires. So I'm not shocked that Ferdinand isn't immediately following him back in. But to keep in mind, the longer he stays out here, the bigger that advantage that he'll have to run down is going to be.
Exactly right now. Right now, the gap that he have to reel down is pretty substantial, to say the very least. Ray, 36 seconds he need to close up. However, the pace will be at least 2 seconds quicker a lap. Based on what was seen here in past league races, not just in this series, but in many others across the iRacing service, that makes it tight to where it could be a battle for the race win in the final 5 laps, Evan, between old tires and new tires, and that could be astounding. This time by, from the start of my sentence to the end of the sentence now, 2 seconds closed up by Malik Ray in 5th.
So he is continuing to make the charges. Look at the speed difference there, side by side, a good visual. He blows the doors off the 88 of Ferdinand. And again, if the 88 were to follow him right down to pit road, he wouldn't have a tire advantage as he gets sideways and goes up the hill. The 4 of Terrell going to go by on the inside, not for position, but for Ferdinand, he needs to stay out.
And they're crashing in the backstretch. Washington involved.
The 98 of Washington spinning into the inside wall. It was trouble in front of him, I think, with the 90 of Eberhardt. So this changes everything, as it was Eberhardt fighting with the 54 of Mosier, and Donati just lost it on the outside all on his own. There was no contact there. And the 90 spins, and it'll happen right in front of Washington. Washington gets on the binders, and the cars behind him can't seem to slow it down. Watch this. Sideways, he slows down, but look, one car's going to go by on the left right there. The other one can't find a hole, and it is Jared Mogard who gets into him and picks up another car.
And this is going to make it a vastly interesting now. Bad luck for Washington with a checkup in the stack-up to avoid the spinning race car, as Mogart was already off the pace, remember, from hitting the backstretch trying to check up before in that battle with the 0-2. He had been bouncing off the walls constantly, dealing with a very loose race car, struggling under braking. In that case, I think it popped up again here. He's already trying to ride the high side, already struggling with bobbing the car to the left, sees the spin, and then can't get it locked up in time, and boom, destroys the front nose even more so and collects Washington in the process.
And I think it's telling that he wasn't the only one who came in there hot. Valderrama did also, so I think it's just both of those cars didn't really know where that slow car was going to pop out on the racetrack. So because of the timing of this yellow, Andrew Ferdinand will come down to pit road, but as your race leader and under yellow flag conditions, Galen Gidman, he'll pit from second, Nick Hoslander from third, and Malik Ray, who had just run some laps on these tires, cannot stay out to take the track position because he'd be at a tire disadvantage. So he's got to bite the bullet, pit now also, get back even on tires, but he'll lose track position, and Andrew Ferdinand's decision to stay out that little bit extra is going to pay big dividends here.
Yeah, that is huge. He just got back in the lead lap. Kyle Kamer is the lucky dog. Just 6 drivers, Evan. You heard that right, just 6 are on the lead lap because of the timing of the caution and how strong the 88 and the 1 machine have been all race. So Ray is still in the conversation, a battle with Freenoj for this win. Hulslander is now in the conversation. He was, remember, trying to go the longest on the fuel stint and ended up having, at one point, the freshest tires before the 2 stoppers decided. So this race has just been flipped upside down like a pancake.
And it is late. Restart will come inside of the final 25 laps of this one. Daniel Eberhardt does claim responsibility as well for that most recent caution flag. He was the only driver who got penalty points from the race in Daytona after he got a caution penalty. So for he'll get another point added onto that tally. If you're not familiar with how the penalty point system works in Real Sim Racing competition, and applies to both the Full Throttle Cup Series and this Icebreaker Winter Series, is that basically if you cause a caution and you claim responsibility for it right away, you get 1 penalty point. If you don't claim it, you don't get the EOL, obviously. And then if race control looks post-race and says you should have claimed it, you get 2 penalty points. And it's a little bit, it hurts you more. If you get 7 penalty points added on at any point throughout the season, you are parked for a race. So that's the deterrent. If you cause a second caution on the night, it's 2 penalty points. If you don't claim that second one, instead of 2, it is 4, and so on and so forth. So he'll take the 1 penalty point. Joining everybody else tonight, Fowler, Valderrama, and Fowler again are for drivers who have claimed caution points from single car incidents.
And most of the field, though, we should note, though, here, Evan, is because the time of the caution, guys like Gidman might be able to have a strong points day. Most of the field, if they take a wave around, they're having wheels spin for days off the restart. So it's not realistic. Now it's going to become a race where it's now basically a 6 or 7 horse race. It's going to be dramatic now. Restart coming in with about 20 plus laps to go in this race. And Gidman is now in the conversation, starting on the outside of this restart.
And with each passing yellow, more drivers could get back to the lead lap. So Brian Chambliss, Nieto, and Eberhard, as you talk about there, they're able to get back to the lead lap. So Nieto actually is going to be the only one to get all the way on through. A lot of cars getting a wave by. We will have 8th position through 15th be a single lap down. We know your leaders are going to want tires. So if we get 4 laps and then a yellow, would not be shocked if all those cars stay out, get back to the lead lap, and then worry about trying to catch another yellow later to get tires. In this Winter Series, there are 3 attempts at a green and white checkered, and I'm not saying we're going to need to use them, but they are on the table and very much a part of this restart that comes with 21 to go.
And all those drivers, including a lot of them 2 laps down still, even with the wave around, it's a gamble. And if the gamble pays off where we have a caution-precaution situation like we did for the first third of the race, that's going to end up helping these drivers who do so and get themselves a free lap. If we don't, there's a chance they fall another lap down, depending on how this run goes coming to this restart.
We'll see if it is the final or just one of the final restarts on the night, as Daniel Eberhard will lead us back to the green flag with 21 laps to go at Atlanta. He's got Malik Ray on the bumper and Galen Gidman on the outside. They'll fight for second behind him, though, in 1.
Yeah, and this is to be expected. The bottom line in row 2 has every single restart today been able to blast on by, or at least get in position to take second spot away. But it's going to be interesting how Ray fights Freenoj here, because this could be for the win with the timing of this race and the timing of this caution if it stays green. I think Ray's going to be very aggressive here as he gets a bit of a draft and a bit of a dive from behind.
Yeah, Gidman wants the challenge back. He'll take the bottom line away, and oh, there's almost contact. Is Gidman pushed up? Somehow, they don't get together, and everything stays in order for now. It's Freenoj, followed by Ray, and then Gidman in third inside of the final 20. Man, I thought those 2 were done for.
Yeah, that was very, very close, but I think Ray anticipated that he was going to push up the track and gave him the extra bit of space at the last moment, maybe just hit the gas a little bit more, sacrificed the time, and thought, I don't want to risk contact. Gave him a chance to save that race car. It lost him a couple tenths, But they're both still in the fight inside the top 3. Fight for 4th is on, though, because Bobby Terrell looking to have his highest run of the race so far.
He's trying to get on the inside of Holslander, who was that leader of that 3rd strategy. That could have worked out if that yellow never came out. Would the one-stopper have paid out for the 11? He'll never know, and instead he's trying to hang on to 4th as the 4 of Terrell works the inside and tries to take it away from him. These two drivers giving each other ample space. Nobody really pinching on one another yet. For these cars that have gone on a long green flag run, I'm sure they love how the tires feel now, comparatively to earlier on, where 5 laps into the run, they probably said they hated them. All about, where you are in the run and where you've been. And you can see the 86 car slow on the inside. That's lap traffic. Race leaders go high and are able to get on through.
Having a sort of penalty there, that 86, but it's going to get very interesting again how Ray attacks things and the rest of this group. That traffic, though, came at the wrong time for the Ford machine. He had to let off the gas, knowing what was going to happen with the traffic. They're actually 2-3 wide behind them and nearly making contact. Eberhardt just barely avoided getting clipped by Cunningham at the back of this line.
Yeah, the 86 went from the bottom to the middle then of a 3-wide situation as he was off of the pace, but he is able to get on through as Cunningham to come down pit road. And a caution flag now at lap 110. It's on the back straightaway. It is Bobby Krug in the 51 car. He has gone around unassisted in 2 as Calamity Corner takes another one.
Yeah, he was snapping loose for at least half the corner in turn 2. And just ended up trying to correct it to the right. Thought he saved it. But problem is, middle of the racetrack. Loops it around and tries to lock it up. In fact, tries to rev up the engine to try and get it back forward. But the problem is, in the process, he lost his front clip, damaging the front nose of his race car. As the fights were going on at the time of the caution flag. And this is a big one. This is going to be interesting to see who takes a wave this time now.
Well, we know your race leaders are going to be in, so they all go bumper to bumper down pit road as here's the on-board look with Krug. And a little bit of seesaw back and forth as he brings out the yellow at lap number 109, I actually think is when the yellow comes out. So your race leaders are in. Only way to get a lap back for the lap down cars is that everybody else pits and you stay out. But Fridaj obviously going to go for the 4 tires. He's clean into the box this time. We've seen, though, drag races off in the pit lane before. Let's see how they exit this time through as Malik Ray's out of the box. Galen and Gidman right there also, and they're both going to get in front of him. No, look at the 1 car. Wow, what a move as Galen Gidman will win the race off of pit road. And then Andrew Fridaj was going to be 3rd, Justin. And it looks like Malik Ray did not want the outside. He checked up to intentionally get off of pit lane P3.
Exactly what he did there. A cheeky move from Ray, to say the very least. Because he knows how much the outside line on the starts today has not been the best of lines. Ends up dropping them to the inside of row 2 for the restart. And now it's going to get interesting to see what happens here, Evan, in this one. But to get back to the point there once more, remember the wave around for the last caution? Nieto now is in 8th position. His gamble paid off, exactly what he was hoping for in the 2 machine. He's now back in the fight for a top 10.
And it looks like Chambliss, Trudell, and Eberhard are going to be the drivers who do the same thing this time through. Also, Thomas George, maybe Scott McClendon, Ross Cato. So a whole slew of drivers opting to stay out. Look for the wave around. They will get themselves back onto the lead lap by forgoing pit strategies. So continuing the pace again late in this race at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Want to remind you that coverage of the RealSimRacing Icebreaker Winter Series is supporting the Nevada Partnership for Homeless Youth. NPHY is the most comprehensive service provider for the thousands of young people experiencing homelessness in our community, providing access to life-changing services for homeless youth 24 hours a day at virtually every street corner in Southern Nevada. NPHY's wraparound programs stabilize young people's lives, meeting their immediate needs and providing a safe, supportive environment and a path to self-sufficiency. MPHY's individualized, holistic services empower young people to not only achieve long-term independence, but to craft the futures they want for themselves. Go to nphy.org for more information on how to seek help and also on how to volunteer and help make a difference. Pacing at 112, so this will bridge us to the brink of a 10-lap to go restart. And with more cars only getting added onto the lead lap, I have to think that there's going to be more yellows to come. That's the trends of these races, Justin. Yellows early and yellows late.
Yep, and especially at Atlanta, the restarts are going to be very crazy now with the tire spin for everyone who just took that wave. But for Gidman, it's going to be the question of, what does he have now that he's got clean air on the racetrack? Will he be able to come away with the checker flag? Can he hold off Freenosh? Can he hold off Ray? This is his biggest chance to come away with the victory so far this season. And I'm going to be curious to see if the 94 can hold on. He's been running inside the top 15 much of this race. This is his moment to show what he can do in the spotlight.
He has been a good car, but he has not been a Malik Ray, Andrew Freenoj good car. So can he steal this one in that Fast Forward Esports Ford Mustang? It'll come with 12 laps to go on top of the scoring to pylon and a lot of stiff competition around him. Atop them, you've also got Holslander and Terrell to round out your top 5 as we see how this one will play out. We go on the mark of the 94. Oh, and there's a lot of tire spin. Gidman can't hang on, and he's going to go in the grass. No yellow, we stay green, and Freenoj now to the race lead.
And they're 3-4 with the tire spin behind him still, but everybody else got clean. My goodness, because he went off in the grass, no caution flag. Just may have tried to shift a little bit from the first gear or hit the gas too hard in the second gear at the high end of the revs. And now he is a half track behind as we take a look at this. Ray barely avoided him having to check up for that spin off into the grass, and a huge mistake for the 94.
It's not like it was old tires. That was 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. He just put the power down too hard, and you could see not a chance. A miracle that Malik Ray did not get into him, but it did still hurt the one car off of the restart because Nick Holslander, he'll take over second. Kyle Kamer's now in third, so Malik Ray is just trying to get back into a top 3 position. He's on the bottom of the 17, right there at a 4. He'll take it back from him, so Malik Ray back to third, but with 10 laps to go, he's cost himself a second from Freenoj. And you want to talk about overthinking, back to that trip off of the pit lane, Justin. If the one car doesn't check up intentionally to give up the second position in place of third, he doesn't end up behind Gidman there. He doesn't have to check up. He'd be your leader right now.
I don't think he was expecting that to happen, though. That's the thing. I don't know if you can calculate for that on someone on fresh tires. But a huge, huge mistake for the 94. And now Ray, can he catch up in time? Under 10 to go. Looks like Holslander going to give him second spot as that 17 of Kamer rides behind in his highest run of the race inside fourth.
He's up to P4, so Kamer looking to try to capitalize on this. Was his highest third until Malik Ray snatched that back from him. Look behind him. Bobby Terrell inside of the number 19 car. Not even for, with the 24 car of Eric Stanford. So these two cars are pinching down on one another. The last battle Terrell was in, we noted that there was a lot more give and take. That time they were awfully tight on each other, and they still are, as Stanford tries to hold him on the inside.
Well, it is money time, points paying time specifically. A bit of a bobble from Stanford. He was the lucky dog last time, and they got contact.
Oh, they're both going to go down and onto the apron. Stanford back up on track. He'll hang on. Terrell also hangs on. As they started leaning into each other, it was Terrell who moved up first to get into the 19 to Stanford. We stay green, no yellow. Watch this replay. It's going to happen on the backstretch, really into the entrance of 3. They're fine, and I don't know if it was Terrell sending a message to right there when Stanford came off the wall, but he went up the hill and got into him a little bit.
I think it was more so trying to push him up the hill a slight touch, not want to make contact, but force Stanford to take a higher arc off the top of the banking. Thing is, Stanford, not expecting that, tried to turn down, Both of them having a heck of a save, though, and as this is going on, Freenos just set the fastest lap of that time by a 31.8, a tenth quicker than Malik Ray, up by 1.3 seconds. He is hoping this one stays green.
And the interval's last time by, in fact, in favor of Malik Ray, but only by a single tenth of a second. He's going to need at least 3/10 a lap if he's going to catch him inside of the final 5 laps to go from Atlanta. Freenos looking to get his first Icebreaker win of the season. A little bit of luck, a little bit of good fortune on the restart has him way out in front.
Yeah, and that clean air is absolutely helping. A 32 flat this time by. At this point, again, he's got no one to worry about, no one on his back bumper. He can just try and cruise as long as it stays green. He's in a great situation, can't afford mistakes and can't afford to be held up by lap traffic. He does have Michael Krasinski up in front of him, the 22nd place car.
So that's the only thing that the one car is going to have to keep an eye on. And of course, Kaczynski running up on the outside line. So Freenos is able to safely navigate down on the bottom. And it is not going to be a concern. Malik Ray now has to navigate that same traffic. But at this point, he is only continuing to drop further and further off. Of course, Freenos is sweating now because he can see all the daylight out in front of him. Malik Ray getting smaller in the rearview mirror. But at 3 laps to go, he really needs to see that white flag fly before he starts to breathe easy.
Yes, remember, that's when the race is official. If you don't get the white flag, say someone spins on the 2 lap to go signal, or even when they're down the front stretch, it could potentially trigger the GWCs, and Andrew, obviously for obvious reasons, doesn't want to do that. Doesn't want to have it left up to risk, because if you have that, there's a chance people try and stay out even with the amount of tire spin and hope for a gamble. But at this point, Andrew's the fastest car on the racetrack. Ray is really struggling push off on the corners.
He just doesn't have it, and I don't think he got any damage in that exchange off for the race start. I think he's just had to overdrive it a little bit to try to make up for what, again, were 2 very even cars. You can't just pull a second out of nowhere, and the consequences looks like it's going to keep Malik Ray out of the winner's circle for a second week in a row, as he made back up a P2 last week with a P2 tonight. Freenos, though, going to see that ever important one that makes it official, white flag in the air.
And a strong race overall for the 88 tonight. Just has to get around the final parts of this mile-and-a-half circuit. Every time he got clean air in this race, he made it clear he was the quickest car in the long run. Multiple drivers tried different strategies to try and get by him. But in the end, Andrew, the best car on the track tonight here.
Started on a pole and has led the most laps throughout. Had a couple of challengers throughout, but Andrew Freenos is on top. A win from Atlanta Motor Speedway. First win on the year for him in this Icebreaker Winter Series. Your 2017-18 Winter Champion is back on top of the points 2 weeks in to 2020.
And look at that dominating top bar. 86 of 125 laps led. Well deserved. Him and Ray with the class of the field. And they were as high as 30 seconds ahead of the field. That 88 machine made it clear he was dominant from the get-go. And he straight up took them to the cleaners.
And you want to talk about a car that gets a lot of TV time. It's still got the for sale sign on it, and he's celebrating on the front straightaway. Freenos is your winner tonight for the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. What a drive amongst he, Malik Ray, a handful of other drivers, some timely yellows, timely mistakes, a lot of crazy race starts later, and the 88 car will be driving that one to victory lane this evening. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside, and when we come back, we'll go trackside, talk with your top finishers, and get you set for the next race coming to you next Monday from Homestead, Miami. You're watching LSR TV's coverage of the 2020 RealSimRacing Icebreaker Winter Series, supporting the Nevada Partnership for Homeless Youth. Post-race action is next on the iRacing Esports Network.
Of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, would it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMary.
And welcome back live to the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway, where LSR TV's coverage of the RealSimRacing Icebreaker Winter Series continues tonight with the NPHY.org 188. Happy that you're with us. You're home for sim racing and the iRacing Sports Network. Evan Pasoko, Justin Prince, along with our producer downstairs, Randy Jenneth, with you from Hampton, Georgia. We'll go trackside in just a moment, talk with your top finishers, but first let's look top to bottom and recap tonight's action with a look at our Ford Entertainment Group full race results. Andrew Ferdinand is heading to victory lane for the first time this year, most laps led, and a great performance for the car who started from pole. We'll also talk with Malik Ray, who comes home in second, and Nick Hoslander, who comes home in third position. Interestingly enough, these top three finishers, the same top three from Daytona last week, just a different running order. Sam Niano comes home P4, and Kyle Kamer rounds out your top five. Bobby Terrell gets a P6. Eric Stanford way up for a P7. Both he and Kyle Trudalo comes home in eighth, gained 15 spots. Over the course of this one, Everhart dropped some and came home ninth, and Thomas George rounds out your top 10.
Just outside that top 10, Scott McClendon, but we have to talk about Galen Gidman getting loose on the final restart, having some wheel spin, went off in the grass, finished half a track behind, 19 seconds total behind in 12th position. A massive mistake, just finishing in front of his teammate, though, in Ross Cato. Brian Chambers finished in 14th. One first car left down, though, was Jared Modart. Jonathan Lawrence finished 16th. Started in 35th, mind you, in the 66. Sean Kalis in 17th. David Washington, 18th. Joshua Bayard in 19th. And Steve Cunningham rounded out the top 20.
And continuing on through, most of these drivers 5-8 laps down. Steve Soa 21st, Michael Kaczynski 22nd, with Michael Bozier 23rd, Bobby Krug 24th, and Shane Parrish P25. Rest of these cars almost certainly out of it. Trevor DeValderrama 26th, Gail Brooks 27th, Steve Durham 28th, Todd Novosad 29th, and Scott Brotherton in P30. Then to just bookend it all, McBride 31st, Bradford 32nd, Fowler 33rd, and Kevin Pearson in 34th position. That's been a look top to bottom at the FEG full race results. FEG PC has been serving the iRacing community with custom-built affordable computers specifically built and tuned for iRacing. Your PC will come with everything you need preloaded so you can get racing as soon as it hits your doorstep. Get yours today and join the over 600 iRacers already enjoying a Ford Entertainment Group PC. Builds to fit every budget from $540 and up. Go to fegpc.net and mention code LSRTV10 to get your build quoted today. Now trackside, an Icebreaker Winter Series victory lane with Andrew Ferdinand, who's your race winner tonight from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. Andrew, a top three back-to-back, but you're able to get over the hump this time and finish on top. A dominant night on the stat sheet when you look at the laps led, but you had a couple of challengers there that made it fun.
Yeah, really happy with that race. That was so much fun. Really fun to drive that car, and had really great battle there with Malik. I think at points he was quicker, and at points I was quicker, and it was just a really fun overall night. And got lucky with the cautions. Got lucky someone spun the tires there in a restart and was able to come out front. But I was looking forward to a battle there with Malik towards the end. So a little disappointed, but overall just really happy to get a win tonight.
Of course, a tricky track is, we were talking at the top of the broadcast that this is really the week where this Icebreaker Winter Series actually starts. And this battle for the championship, once you get over the unknowns at Daytona, you kind of take a good result at a plate track as bonus points and run with it. A lot of drivers really struggled with the hot, slick trap temps. If it was either, loose or tight or whatever they were dealing with, a lot of drivers struggled to get a handle on it. So what was the difference to make that 88 car click?
Yeah, just like I said last year, the Cup Series drove like that, so it was kind of just that's my feel. That's the car I love to drive, so it kind of just drove like that. And the track was all over the place. When the cloud come out, it would kind of get tight on entry and then be wicked loose on exit. And if you put less fuel in the thing, it'd be really tight all around. So it felt like the handling changed every single lap. So it's kind of, you had to go in the corners cautiously, literally work the gas cautiously, and it was on ice all night, and it was just a ton of fun. So you really be careful, drive what you can, and try not to put it in the wall and see where you end up at the end.
We stick with the intermediate racetracks and the fixed setups, but it is a different kind of challenge next Monday night from Homestead to Miami Speedway. Second one of these 125 lappers back-to-back. What is the outlook with these cars headed into a racetrack that you were just on here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network not that long ago, hosted a trophy, but this time it comes in a B car.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I think it's our last race on this current tire model, so after that we're gonna have to learn how to drive these things with the V7. So looking forward to it. It's gonna be, I think, noontime, so hopefully we get a loose setup again, and we'll really have to drive it. Looking forward to a lot more than with the A car. These things have horsepower. We really get to wheel it and show what we can do.
Looked like a crazy fun one out there in some of those battles for the lead. Andrew, race winner tonight in the NPHY.org 188. The sponsors and shout-outs and all that good stuff. Who makes that all-white car happen for you?
You just everybody over at Aegis, Dave Washington for bringing me on board. Just so I don't forget anybody's name, I'm just gonna say everybody on Aegis, everyone over there, all the fans for watching, you guys for broadcasting, and all the drivers tonight. It was a ton of fun to race around everybody.
Well, we appreciate the time as always, Andrew. Again, congratulations on the race win, as this will bump you at the top of the point standings. 2 weeks at a 10 in. A long way to go, but we wish you the best of luck. Next Monday night, we'll catch you in Florida.
Yep, we'll see you then.
Ferdinand on the top of the mountain tonight. Flip side of that battle, Malik Ray had a very good challenge. It'll be the second week in a row, Justin, that he plays second fiddle. P2, your track side with him.
Yes, indeed, Malik. You had some absolutely interesting moments. Some great battles for the lead, led some laps, and also had some very decent slides in the pit entry. How would you describe your race tonight, Malik?
It was all about tire management it was just about trying to make sure you didn't slide your tires and whatnot. That's what I tried to do the whole night, and it seemed to work out pretty well.
Yeah, you were leading at one point. In fact, trying different strategies, including a two-stopper at one point. What came down to that strategy call? Of course, it's a high-tire wear circuit, but what came to going to that strategy for this race tonight?
I believe after like 25 or so laps, we were 3.5 seconds off, and I figured that on the last green flag run, or the run before the green flag run, we had went green with like 60 to go, and I was gonna try to split it in half and do 30 and 30 because of the tire fall off, and I believe that it would have worked, but we had a caution and whatnot, so then but I was able to get back on the lead lap, I think just before the caution it came out, so I was able to still stay on the lead lap, and yeah.
What was going through your head though once you seen what happened on that restart? Because you had elected to go to the bottom line and start third, and then a car spun its tires.
Yeah, so going off of pit road, I was trying to get the lead, but then I saw that Galen was going to have the lead, and I saw that Andrew had a bad stop, so I braked to let Andrew have second because I was trying to be on the inside line, and I thought that he would have like more. I just didn't think that he was going to spin the tires, and him doing that is what cost me a shot at the win. So I'll just keep it in my head for next time. Next time I'll just try to come off pit road where I'm supposed to come off instead of trying to be smart about it.
Next race though was at Homestead Miami Speedway, a phenomenal racetrack for the 1.5+ circuits. Your thoughts on Homestead Miami Speedway?
I enjoy Homestead a lot. I enjoy Homestead just like I enjoy Atlanta. So hopefully that race won't have any late race, like stuff like that when we can go green the whole way, because I enjoy green flag runs a lot. It's fun running up there with Andrew and Eberhard and Nick. When these things get loose, it's a ton of fun to drive.
Who gets it done for your Richmond Raceway Esports machine and the rest of your crew?
Sunoco, FEG, and you guys for broadcasting. I appreciate all you guys, and SimSeats. I appreciate all you guys very much.
Thank you very much for the time. Congratulations on your second place finish of the week.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
That was Malik Ray coming in second place for a second straight race to start the season. Back over to you, Evan.
Yeah, we'll continue on down through the running order, and the reason why it'll be tight at the top of the points, and Andrew Ferdinand's win, backed up by a P3 last week, doesn't guarantee him the very top of the board, is because, well, your Daytona winner with a very good finish tonight as well. We're with your P3 finisher, Nick Holslander. Nick, congrats on another good run. Just tell us about this one, because it looked like at most points it was kind of Malik and Andrew running away, and you could sprinkle the third one in there, and late race restarts kind of gave you some life as you're able to snag a lot of good points here at P3.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was pretty much struggling throughout the entire day. It was really, really loose, and like Malik was saying, it'd get really loose, and then tighten to the entry. It made it really difficult, and I got really lucky with those cautions. Those cautions really helped me out a lot, to be honest with you. Especially that that last caution restart where the leader spun his tires. I mean, that pretty much locked me into third place.
Of course, Atlanta has its own unique challenges. Turn 2 seemed like if there was any sort of single car spin, it was happening down at that end of the racetrack. What were the things that you had to overcome to drive that car up from P8 to get this podium?
Really, to be honest with you, it was just, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I stayed out the longest, I think, out of everybody on that big green flag run. I don't know how many laps it was. It was quite a few, though. And when I came out of the pits, I got really lucky. I just gotten past Malik. And then Malik came down pit after I got past him. And then a caution flag came out like immediately after that. The biggest challenge I had, though, to be honest with you, was just racing myself and not racing anybody else, to be honest with you. It was really loose.
The hot start for you in this 2020 campaign, obviously a trip to victory lane. You back it up with a P3 tonight. So you and Andrew both have one of those apiece, along with Malik with back-to-back second position. So able to separate yourselves from the rest of the pack. How do you find an edge over those two, beginning with Homestead next week?
I'm not really sure on that one. They're going to be really difficult. They're both really quick guys. I let Malik by there at the end because I knew he was a way faster car than I was. I'm just going to have to practice. That's all it really comes down to.
We look forward to catching what happens next Monday night, December the 16th. It's at 9 Eastern start, as always, right here on LSR TV and the iRacing Sports Network. Nick, before we let you go, who makes it happen?
Obviously, you guys at RSR, thank you for putting it together. LSR TV, thank you for broadcasting it for us. Feg, and again, my paint scheme, Splash and Go.
The third place finisher in the NPHY.org 188. Nick, thanks for chatting. We'll catch you next week.
Yeah, thanks.
And a big thanks to all of our top 3 finishers for that little bit of bonus time here. Post-race chat with us, of course, race winner Andrew Ferdinand, Malik Ray, and Nick Holslander. A very interesting dynamic just a little bit ago. Ferdinand has got a third to win. Holslander's got a third to win. And Malik Ray's got 2 second-place finishes back-to-back. Gives us quite the point situation, as the top 3 will be right on top of each other. And yes, I know it's very early in the season, but, them kind of swallowing up all of those big points gives them some breathing room to everybody else. You can kind of hone in on those other 2 in that trio.
Yeah, but comes the question, can they keep the consistency up? It is a small sample size, mind you, and there are some challenging tracks on the schedule that can shake them up a little bit. Tracks like Talladega, you still have to think about in the later portion of the season. The middle portion, the schedule with the road courses such as Mid-Ohio and Iowa, and of course, Homestead Miami Speedway, which is an absolutely beautiful driver's track, which will absolutely challenge them again. I wouldn't be surprised to see them towards the front yet again, but there is a lot that could happen potentially when we go to Homestead Miami Speedway next week.
And of course, I was talking about it there with Andrew, just crowned him the 2019 RealSimRacing Cup Series champion at Homestead. But it is going to be a very different race, Justin, than those who may have tuned in with us for that one a couple of Mondays ago, because these Xfinity Series cars, obviously nothing like that 2019 Cup package. And Ferdinand says he was looking forward to it. So Homestead's a fun track as is. It's pretty hard to kind of mess that one up and shake it up. So I think that'll be a very fun one. The only intermediate racetrack we go to that, of course, doesn't have a quad oval or a tri-oval, which makes that 3 and 4 section completely different than any other similar tracks on the schedule.
Yeah, there's so many different lines you can run on that track, too. Some people prefer to go all the way down the white line in the corners. Some people like to use the high line with the lower downforce packages and with the Xfinity cars. It's going to be interesting to see who's going to be the best of the drivers when we get to racing next week. Going to be absolutely challenged for sure. And again, it's going to be interesting how the tire situation is for those drivers. Not as big of a tire wear track, but It was discussed a little bit by Andrew, the potential of the V7 coming up in the next couple weeks. If it impacts Homestead, we'll have to wait and see, but it could become an impact in the middle of the season.
And we hope that you join us for next week as well through the rest of this Icebreaker campaign. But that's it for us here tonight from Atlanta. A lot of short track special event racing coming up this week on LSR TV. The Snowball Showdown is coming to LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. 5 nights of racing. It all starts this Wednesday at 9 o'clock Eastern. It is also a 9 o'clock start Thursday night, then 7 Eastern on Friday, 5 Eastern on Saturday, 1 o'clock Eastern in the afternoon on Sunday, all 5 nights right here. Of course, you can find more info on that by going to our website at www.livesimracing.com and by staying up to date with us on social media, facebook.com/LSRTV official, and over on Twitter at LSRTV and at RealSimRacing to stay in the loop. Until next time, though, on behalf of our entire team at LSR TV and for your broadcast team tonight, for our producer downstairs, Randy Cheneth, for Justin Prince, and to myself, Evan Pasoko, want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Andrew Ferdinand, who's back on top on a Monday night. We'll continue with round 3 of this 2020 campaign next Monday, December the 16th. That one from Homestead Miami Speedway. That race and every race of the RealSimRacing Icebreaker Winter Series can be found right here on your home for sim racing and the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from Hotlanta.